welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jackie. And we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of our favorite movies from the late 90s and early 2000s.
Well, we are not too far away from the 4th of July, people. So you know we had to do it, 1996 style, with Independence Day. That's right, we are doing the sci-fi action epic odyssey that is ID4 with Will Smith, Bill Pullman. Bill Pullman. Sorry.
I get Pullman and Paxton mixed up, so.
I do. It's so confusing. I love both of them, so.
Jeff Goldblum?
Jeff Goldblum and an array of different
there's a little Randy Quaid.
Characters.
Little Randy Quaid sprinkled in for good measure.
A baby Mae Whitman.
Yes! Our girl Vivica A. Fox.
Yes.
And Brent Spiner, a.k.a. Data from Star Trek The Next Generation.
So, just a little bit about the movie. It takes place right before Independence Day, and all of a sudden, around the world, they start to see these wonderful spaceships start appearing in the atmosphere. And it's pretty much how the whole world, especially America, handles it. So before we get into it, let's go into our ratings.
So you know the drill. Before we get into the movie, we'll reveal the ratings our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Our scale consists of would buy it or would buy it again.
The best would play it on repeat.
5-day rental.
Would watch again.
2-day rental.
Okay, but nothing to write home about.
And same-day rental.
Trash. Absolute trash. So, if you want to see this movie, you can rewatch it, as Jackie and I did, on HBO Max.
Yep.
It is available on that service. So, Jackie, what was your rating? Y2K Jackie's rating.
I know, I'm trying to think. I honestly maybe saw this movie twice, once in the theater, and I'm sure we rented it. Probably a 5-day rental. I was really into Will Smith. So I'll say a 5-day rental for Will Smith.
Well, Y2K Danielle was all about this movie. She loved it. She loved it. She loved it. She loved the one-liners. She loved America winning in the end, as always. So I definitely would say it's probably between would buy it and 5-day rental. But because I didn't buy it, I'm going to go with 5-day rental.
Okay. So we matched this week.
Yeah.
Look at us. Okay,
let's get into it, Jackie. Yeah. I mean, I texted you as I was rewatching because I was like, "Oh Lord, this is gonna be a good one." In the sense that I think I have more fun when it's a movie that isn't that great.
Agreed. I have 7 pages front and back of notes, which is by far the most of any movie we've done this. That includes my Star Wars episode where I took copious notes about like the alien races and names and all of that stuff.
Well, I really feel for you.
So the movie opens on July 2nd with something going over the moon.
So we see something like, do we see the full ship? We see it's like a huge ship yet?
No,
we
it's
see
just like
something.
The shadow over the moon and then the moon vibrating.
Okay.
And then the next scene was in New Mexico. They show SETI, which is a real thing, I learned. and that's the Search for
Yeah.
Extraterrestrial Intelligence Agency.
Yeah, and they start to pick up some readings, and it puts them all in a tizzy. And then it's funny to kind of see the calls that happen, like the chain of events after they pick up these readings and they realize that it can't be a glitch. They call the military, but it's not like the big guy yet. And then it goes from them to, it just keeps on going higher up the ranks till we get to the president, obviously.
So it very much feels like Nerds in a Basement, even though it's an actual agency. But it's like they're just sitting there listening to the ether, waiting for some shit to happen. And then it does, and you have to go up the chain because they have no pull in the government, really.
Yeah. And then, you know, as this is all happening, we meet the president, right, after SETI. So we meet Bill Pullman as the charismatic war hero, young president, which now I wonder if Shonda Rhimes just completely stole this character to make Fitzgerald in
Maybe.
Scandal. Just side note, because their characteristics are very similar. Anywho, so he's in bed with his daughter, baby Mae Whitman.
I guess the wife is away. The first lady is away on some sort of business. She's in LA. And so she's calling to say goodnight.
The mom is from Battlestar Galactica, is she not?
Yes, she plays the president on BSG, as it's referred to.
Mary McDonnell, yeah. I think she's in LA trying to do press because they're attacking him. So she's, you know, doing the good wife, first wifely duty to, you know, kind of stick up for him. And then after, you know, we kind of get an idea of the White House, we're meeting these characters, the president and his staff. We pan over to our boy, Jeff Goldblum. All I have is David, so damn sexy. Man, I'm going to be honest. I'm a full Jeff Goldblum stan, and I was here for every second of his glistening wonderfulness in this movie. Ugh.
I don't see it, but I'm happy for you.
What? Jeff Goldblum is a very handsome man, and he just ages like fine wine. He looks still damn good. Whatever.
We meet David, Jeff Goldblum's character, playing chess in the park with his dad. And his dad's giving him a hard time because he's still wearing his wedding ring, even though they've been divorced for 3 years.
5 years? Is it? Oh, 3? Okay.
It was 3.
And his dad calls him out on it, as any Jewish dad would.
The banter between those two actors
so good.
Is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is completely believable that it is a father and son, and you can tell there's a lot of love there, but it's also a lot of honesty and a lot of like ribbing in a very gentle way.
Yeah, playful, loving way. Yeah.
Yeah.
The dad brings definitely some needed comedic relief in a way that doesn't feel very tired and one-liney. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So then we see David go to work and they realize the satellites are dead because we kind of, as the audience, see that the satellites actually crash into this unidentified ship or thing floating in the air. I don't know.
Yes.
Craft. Maybe that aircraft. So, of course, David is starting to figure some stuff out. But he's not really he's paying attention to some chatter he's picking up off of the satellites. He's decoding a message essentially while everybody else. Where does he work? Because at first I thought it was like a newsroom, but his dad called him a cable guy later on.
Which apparently he is. I don't know how he went to MIT for 8 years and is brilliant, but then ended up a cable repairman.
Yeah. I don't know. It's super, super weird. And of course, we can't even talk about this scene without talking about Harvey Fierstein being his friend Marty. And like so you good. hear his voice first. Like I feel like I heard his voice before I was like, oh, there he is. And he definitely makes me laugh quite a few times in this film while he's on screen.
He's just kind of like the neurotic friend.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the introduction of Randy Quaid's character and his family. He lives in, it's not even like, it doesn't feel like a mobile home park. It almost feels gypsy-ish, like maybe they travel around.
Like a caravan, yeah. Like they're
Correct.
always moving
because
together, yeah.
It's all, not mobile homes, motor homes.
RVs, yeah.
Yes. And he, by trade, is a crop duster. He is ex-military. He served his time in Nam, flying planes. Yeah. And he is an
alkie.
He is an alkie. Because, well, it alludes to the fact that he is an alcoholic because he had been abducted by aliens. And, of course, no one believes a crazy town drunk. Right. But he's like, it's true. And so then there's lots of jokes about being sexually abused by the aliens.
Yeah, the people in his town think he's just kind of a loser, and they make fun of him, and no one believes him. Even his kids, who one of his kids, his oldest son, I wrote Keanu wannabe. He looks like a little version of Keanu, but maybe not as cute.
He does.
Reeves.
And then, so it's the oldest son seems to, he can drive, so he's at least 16.
Yeah.
And then it seems like the daughter's maybe 13, 14, and the son's maybe 10, 11.
Yeah, and the daughter's played by Lisa Jacob, and I hope I said that right. She was in Mrs. Doubtfire. So it's like all these people you see, and you're like, oh, I've seen them in this movie or that movie, but like nobody like really, besides obviously Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman. No one's really like a huge star in this movie.
And did you notice
a lot of character actors
who
yes,
she was making out with?
Andrew Keegan. I had that in my notes. I was like, wait a minute.
It's Andrew Keegan.
And did you notice her brother was the guy from Detroit Rock City?
I knew I had seen him somewhere. I just couldn't place. The younger brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't place where I had seen him before.
Okay, so yeah, we meet Russell, we meet his family, we get his kind of story, and then we're back to the president. At this point, they're really not doing a good job. Like, the press is all over this because the satellites are down. They're realizing communications all over the place, and at this point, have the craft started to. They know that something is coming straight towards Earth, but they know it's not a meteor because it actually slowed down.
Yes, and what the ships are doing. So from my understanding, there are 3 tiers of ships. There is the mothership, which stays out of Earth's atmosphere. Then there are these large ships that hover over major cities. And then there are tiny ships that are like the attack ships. Like the TIE fighters or the X-Wings, if you will.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
So the second tier ships, the very large ships that are hovering over cities, obviously people are taking note. And at this point, they're just hovering. Nothing has happened yet. And so the military's trying to figure out a strategy for what to do.
Yeah. They want to go to DEFCON 3, and they're out they're arguing in the Oval Office with the president, with his cabinet members, just trying to figure out what to do. And I don't know. To me personally, and you might have more insight from your families, what they gave you some information on. But I kind of feel like we have so many departments in our military that just focus on worst case scenarios or something like this were to particularly happen, and they have plans for that. Yeah. So the fact that they were really just like, they didn't call any experts in, They were just sitting there talking and arguing about this. I mean, the fact that it came into our atmosphere already. They knew before it came into our atmosphere and still didn't have a plan, and it was just absolute chaos.
It wasn't flying very fast.
No, not
it
at
wasn't
all.
like
it slowed down.
Yeah, and even like when it's shown going over the moon, it wasn't flying at like jet speed. It was at cruising speed.
And I would have also, I could imagine if something like this was happening, that there would have been a collective conversation with other countries at that time, not just the United States and their own faction making a decision.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knew that this was going to come and hit potentially somewhere.
I would like to believe that other countries were doing the same thing, just like... reactionary mode, like this thing is here hovering over our major cities, what the hell do we do? And so I think it wasn't until the end when the United States, of course, figured out how to destroy the ships, then they disseminated that information to other countries. But we'll get to that.
I just want to say with a full heart that Independence Day is an American propaganda movie. I didn't understand it as a teenager watching this movie. I fully understand it now. And yes, we will get to some parts where I will definitely say this is propaganda 100%. And I also want to go on record and say Independence Day is a great holiday for our country.
So they're trying to figure out what to do, so they kind of send this dude up to just check out the ship.
Oh yeah, they send the two guys up to, aren't they?
They're just scouting.
Yeah.
But they fire upon the ship, realize very quickly that the ship has a shield around it, and I was like, has no one watched Star Trek? Like, that's the first thing you do when you go into battle is you put your shields up around the Enterprise. So I don't know why it didn't work in reverse.
I wrote in my notes, the military needs to start recruiting nerds because this shit don't make no sense.
So they go up there and, of course, they fire shots immediately. And that would piss anyone off, I feel.
I don't know why I thought they just, like, I don't know why they did that. Like, that's, like, the first rule. Like, if no one is shooting at you, why
you hang back.
Until
you don't take the first shot. Yeah.
Right. I thought it was like a
they don't know
recon
if
job.
It's, they don't know if they're hostile at this point or not. They're just hovering over Earth.
Yeah.
And so, of course, and the guy says, there's zero visibility, or maybe this wasn't when they were firing shots.
No, I don't think they shot anything. I think the planes were just there, and they
it was the big firestorm.
Yeah,
and then he says it's zero visibility up here, which I call shenanigans because what about radar? And I don't think radar works off of satellites. We are not sciencey people.
Yeah, we don't know what we're talking about. Well,
yeah.
You know, I did go to school for science, but not this kind of science. I went to school for chemistry stuff, so... But the physics I barely passed.
Yeah, so it was a huge... For some reason, the ships entering the atmosphere create these giant firestorms, but also their own clouds. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
So the guy loses all visibility, and then all of a sudden it's a giant firestorm, and of course he gets burnt up.
So I'm confused. I got confused. I think we were talking about two different segments.
It is.
Yeah, two scenes. Because I was thinking about the scene where they were just like literally in front of the ship, and the ship opens up the blue light and it just kills them.
Yeah.
Which one of those happened first? The scene
later.
You're talking about? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's later. Because I think that's when they fire upon him.
So...
But then there's also a helicopter with flashy lights. I don't know. It's all very confusing.
It's just trying to get through the damn movie.
Okay, maybe my notes will help me along.
we do see after they have the DEFCON 3 conversation, we see the ships are now in the atmosphere just hovering, and we see it in Iraq. And I said, if they go and they kill all these people in Iraq first, I'm definitely having an issue that this is a propaganda movie. After that, everybody around the world starts to panic once they descend. Then you have the crazies who are like happy that the aliens are here because they're idiots. Yeah. And then Jeff Goldblum is going to save us all. And because he's figuring out the code, and he everybody at where they work are like going to the basement or they're leaving. And he starts to figure it out, and we find out his ex-wife actually works for the president, and so he tries calling her to warn her because he's figured out what the code is, and it's a countdown essentially, but she's not hearing him. I feel like if he had just led with, I broke the code of the satellite of this thing, and it's a countdown. If he had said that, maybe she wouldn't have hung up on him. But he doesn't start there? I don't know. Drama.
My favorite part of this scene is
there's no shame in hiding.
What's his name? Harvey. Harvey Fierstein says, "Take it slow. Don't run. Walk to the basement. There ain't no shame in hiding.
Yes.
I have to call my mother."
That mother line. So yeah, we get that, and then we get a scene. We see Russell again. He's at the bar. He's trying to drown his troubles because he effed up again with the crop dusting. And then all the guys at the bar are making fun of him. But at the same time that they're making fun of his, whole alien encounter on the news, they're like, there's spaceships hanging outside. And he's like, vindication! I told you.
He says, who's the fool now? In prepping for this, apparently there were 70 different broadcasts shown, like news broadcasts shown throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And they actually hired local news anchors to shoot those scenes because they wanted to feel authentic, that it was actual reporters reporting these events. So I thought that was cool, to make it give that realness and that intensity that it needed.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. I mean, honestly, a lot of the movies we've seen, I've known a little bit of background, but like, I did not know a lot about this movie. I just knew Danielle wanted to see some Will Smith, and that was it. So, and speaking of which, so after we see Russell, we are introduced to Will Smith. I mean, I probably should say their characters' names, but like, okay.
Captain Steve
Hiller. Yeah. So first we see Vivica A. Fox, her character, who's Jasmine Dubrow, and they're in bed.
And they think it's just, they live in California, the LA area. So they
feel a rumble.
Yeah, and they just think it's an earthquake. They don't even react. And so Will goes out to get the morning paper, because that's something you used to do. Oh, before he goes outside and gets the newspaper, he sees from his window all these neighbors packing their shit up and leaving. He's like...
Oh, he writes, Jasmine, neighbors moving out.
And he's like, it's just an earthquake. I don't know what they're panicking about, idiots.
Yeah.
And then he goes outside, gets the paper, is reading the paper while it's literally his entire neighborhood is fleeing.
I want to say this as one of the black representatives, that this movie was not in any way, didn't make any sense how these black people responded to what the fuck was going on. Once they realized that those were aliens in the sky, and their reaction was unrealistic to me. I had so many issues with this.
He had honor.
So many
He wanted
issues.
to serve his military as a Marine.
Out of my ass. And, so... I'm sorry, I'm like very passionate about this part because I never really, like, it never bothered me when I first watched this movie, but as a grown-ass woman, so we find out, like, they realize that there's aliens in the sky, right? And he is trying to make it seem like it's not a big deal. They didn't come all this way to like try to wreak havoc. I'm sure their friend, like, even if he was just saying this to calm her down, the fact that, you know, obviously he got called back in to go to work because hello. And she's like arguing with him like, I thought you were off. Bitch, there are alien ships in the sky. What are we talking about right now? I thought you were off.
Barbecue, Vivica.
What the hell? Jasmine? What the hell? And then on top of that, he goes, well, I gotta go to work and y'all will be all right. And he's ready to get in the car. And me, personally, I don't care if you're my man, a friend or neighbor or whatever. There is no fucking way that I'm staying home while you go to the base with military protection. There's no, like, the fact that his first statement wasn't, okay, let's pack up shit, let's go, it may just be friendly, whatever, just in case you come into the base with me. Because you know the military, they have space for your family.
And they have bunkers, and they have, like, food that's sat in cans for 50 years, ready to go.
I would have been writing my Dear John letter like, you motherfucking piece of shit, after he left me there, talk about, why don't you come to the base? He said it later, as he's still leaving. No, we would have all went as a family. Like, what is this?
And I would like to point out, just a side note.
Sorry, I'm just so mad. So mad.
A side note, Jasmine's really into dolphins.
You know what? I know that we're going to go through all back and forth through the movie, but I just want to stay on this family real quick. So yeah, his bitch ass leaves her and her child at the house. He goes to the base, and then we're introduced to his BFF, who is Harry Connick Jr. More weird one-liners that aren't really cute and over-the-top acting. But yeah, so they're in the locker, and a ring drops out of his locker, and his friend, Harry Connick Jr., picks up the ring, and it looks like he's proposing to Will, so I guess they're trying to play some gay humor in the military, which is just weird. Unnecessary, but 90s. Weird in the sense that, like, why are you making a joke about this when we know very much that in the military it was, like, very prejudiced about people who were gay. So he does this, and he's like, well, wait a minute. I thought you were pretty much alluding that he was going to dump Jasmine, like he's not trying to be with her. And that was just, that even infuriated me even more. You're laying up in this woman's house.
I interpreted that as he was getting pressure from other people to dump her because of her trade.
Yes. Jasmine is a stripper, and
there is nothing wrong with earning an honest living.
No, and she has no qualms about it either. We find out later on. But, like, yeah, he is getting pressure from that same friend who's like, because there is an envelope in his locker sticking out from NASA. So, NASA.
Is that the best way to deliver a really important letter, is to stick it in his locker in hopes that he gets it from NASA?
I kind of feel like there would be, I've never been in the military, so I'm just guessing, but I'm feeling like there'd be some sort of outpost where you go pick up your mail. Like, why is it sticky? Not even in, like, they didn't even push it through the slot of the locker, so it's in his locker. It's just sticking out.
Straight out.
Oh, by the way, bitch, you didn't get into NASA.
Yeah, even as a teacher, we got little mailbox cubbies you go and check in the back office. And then, I was like, that is like certified information.
Right.
That probably just shouldn't be floating around for anyone to, like, knock down or take or whatever. I was like,
That's ridiculous.
NASA's got to do something about how they deliver their information.
And Harry Connick Jr. he has the nerve to allude that he's not getting into NASA, Will Smith, because his girlfriend is a stripper. And I just would like to reenact what happened when NASA got his, his resume and everything.
Okay, tell me.
Candidate looks very good, very good, very good. Oh, stripper. Denied.
Did you just do the stamp motion?
I did.
That was well done. Well done, Danielle.
Thank you. I'm here all day.
If you would like to hire Danielle for acting jobs.
It's just ridiculous. So the reason we even get to hit that line of him saying, you're never going to make it in NASA because of Jasmine being a stripper, is because he finds a wedding ring. And this gaudy ass 1990s awful ring.
There was a mention that a month, not in the movie, but a month after the film's release, jewelry designers and marketing consultants reported an increased interest in dolphin-themed jewelry, since the character of Jasmine in the film wears dolphin earrings and is presented with a wedding ring featuring a gold dolphin. From IMDb.
What was wrong with us?
We were really
What was wrong with us in the 90s?
We were really into favorite animal jewelry, I feel. Okay, so we go back to, I don't even know where.
Oh, I know where we are.
Well, I know where we are, but I don't know where they're working. Harvey Fierstein is working, but everyone has gone to the basement under his instruction, and he's sitting under the desk talking to his mother. And then the way he says David's name is just like, David. Yeah. Every single time. I'm like, bitch, you don't have time to draw out your Davids. Get to the point. But David shows up to, like, I don't know, go over the countdown and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's getting his bike. He's going to go to his dad's because they need the car to go get his damn ex-wife.
Highly concerned about people not recycling instead of the matter at hand.
Yeah, that's how that's how we beat him. He's like, after he has that chess scene or whatever. But so we see them everyone's really trying to exit the city. The dad's driving really slow. Luckily the countdown, they gave us 6 hours to prepare. Like I thought that was weird too. Like, why the aliens waited 6 hours for us to just like, I think it act crazy and then try to kill us.
The countdown was for all the ships to be in sync. So I think it was waiting for all of the ships to get in place all over the world.
I just feel like that from a military standpoint, I guess they knew so much about us at that point. They knew they had the advantage because, like, I feel like why show yourself and be that exposed if you're not going to be ready to shoot all at once. But
because they have the shields around their ships, they didn't really have to worry about an attack. It was literally like ants. Like, what are these ants going to do to us? We're bigger and badder and have more technology than they're capable of, type thing, And they probably didn't think a human was going to be able to crack their code.
Right.
So then we get to Jasmine at work. She's called in anyway because the people got to watch the lady strip, even though that there is a global catastrophe waiting to happen.
I'm not surprised. They're like, I'm gonna die anyway. I need to see some titties.
And you find out her friend Tiffany, who is played by the same lady that plays Trish Sackett in 13 Going on 30.
Yes.
Frizzy.
Trish
is kind of here for the aliens and is like, okay, I'm going to work my shift. And when I get off, I'm going to go to the rooftop with all the other people. I made my sign, welcome to Earth. Yeah. And we're just going to welcome the aliens and it's going to be fine. And Jasmine's like, bitch, you better don't.
Yeah, she did listen. She went to the top of that building.
Listen.
Yeah, I just wrote, we stripping during the alien invasion? Question mark. The president's wife is annoying. There are full-on alien ships outside, and she talk about, I gotta make sure the press knows how good you are, and we'll get back. And the husband keeps calling her and telling her, get your ass home. Get home.
I had an issue because this movie is, to me, very long and very drawn out.
Yes.
I had a whole issue with the whole First Lady storyline. You could cut it out, and it brings nothing to the story.
No value. Because you could just fast forward and just see her towards the end and be like, okay, this happened off camera.
Yeah, or just leave her with him the whole time. Like, it didn't need... She was not relevant to this story. She didn't bring any characters together because Vivica A. Fox was at El Toro anyway, and they bring everyone from El Toro. Like, it didn't...
Yeah, you're right.
It would have... She did nothing for the story, and it just annoyed me that I had to sit through a longer movie because of the First Lady.
Yeah, and the scene, and I know we'll get to it, but I'm just going to talk about it anyways. The scene where Jasmine does discover, the First Lady, and she helps her, and they have that moment where they're talking to each other, and... the First Lady has this air about her that she's just better than... I mean, even in that situation, you have to feel like, okay, we're all equaled out. We're about to all be killed by aliens at this point, and you're helping me. So when she's like, oh, she said she's a dancer, and then she's like exotic, and you could see this look on her face, like she was judging. I would have... Yeah. I would have... You're no better than me, lady.
I will say that... because of that scene and the scene with Tiffany earlier in the morning, or earlier in the movie, there is a test that I've been wanting to bring up that I haven't yet, but I will continue to talk about it. So it's called the Bechdel test, Bechdel, and it's the measure of representation of women in fiction. And so there are 3 requirements. There has to be at least a couple of women with speaking roles. 2 women have to talk to each other and hold a conversation about something other than a man. Yeah. And so I think that was...
They do... Well, and the funny thing is that this test is just like literally the bare minimum. Literally. Yes, it's not even complex. It's the bare minimum. And so many movies fail. It's sad. So, but I guess this scene...
Independence Day passes with this scene with... And, so they have to talk about something other than a man. And so, even though the First Lady and Jasmine's conversation, it does pass the Bechdel test, because although they do talk about their husbands at the end, it was like the flow of conversation, and they didn't start out talking about their husbands. They talked about their careers and stuff. And so... I do want to start really analyzing that in the movies that we watch and see what does and does not pass that Bechdel test. Anyway, back 100%. To the movie.
Hey guys, I'm Darcy, founder of Spirit.
And I'm Kelly, the Chief Technical Officer of Spirit.
Back in 2011, we formed the Supernatural Paranormal Investigations and Research Institute, searching for answers to mysterious things that were happening in our little corner of Canada.
And we haven't stopped searching for those answers ever since. Join us on our podcast, Canadian Spirit, as we dive into all of Canada's most famous and forgotten paranormal mysteries. Examine the evidence and try to figure out what might be behind Canada's ghosts, cryptids, and UFO encounters.
In Canadian Spirit, you'll get a peek behind the curtain and see for yourself what being a paranormal investigator is really like, and learn something about Canadian history, which isn't as boring as it sounds.
Even if it is, we're a pair of chucklefucks, so we'll do our best to make it entertaining.
So come along for the ride and discover for yourself what makes the land of maple and hockey so wonderfully weird.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, wherever you find your podcasts. And remember,
raccoons are aliens, werewolves are perverts, and ghosts are just downright rude sometimes.
I know we skipped ahead about the president's wife and her little story, but at least we can wrap that up till we get to when we see her again. Now we're with Will again, I believe, or does
no,
Jeff Goldblum's character get to the the White House first?
Yes. So and his dad the whole time, his dad has to drive because Jeff Goldblum doesn't have a driver's license, and apparently he's driving 30 miles per hour.
Yep, so slow.
And they finally get there, and the whole time his dad's like, "What you gonna do? Ring the bell? Like, what is your plan when we get to the White House?" And Jeff Goldblum's like, "I don't know." And they literally, he just calls the ex-wife, and is like, "Look outside, I'm here." And so she lets him in.
Yeah, but the way he was able to call her
Yeah.
was some real, like, nerd stalker shit. Like, he had this device he put on his car, and he tracked her number that was unlisted. Well, she listed it, but he had to go find it. Yeah, super weird, but cool.
So she lets him in, and he's finally like, "This shit is real. There is a countdown. Shit's about to go sideways." And they're starting to finally believe him and realize this is probably a much bigger problem than we anticipated. And so they decide to send a helicopter up with some sort of light flashing communication device. I can only imagine maybe it's Morse code, but does everyone know Morse code? Like, do aliens know Morse code? Because it's used quite a bit in sci-fi movies. I'm like, but do they know?
I feel like aliens, if they know everything about us. There's not, like, I don't know why we out here thinking we got some secrets. Ooh, Morse code, Morse code.
So they send up the helicopter, which when they were shooting that scene and like testing that light thing, there were lots of reports in LA that there was a UFO because they were testing that helicopter with the flashy lights. Thought that was a little fun fact. And I think this is when the ship opens up and just like takes out the helicopters. So then it's like, okay, now they've fired upon us.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, watching the White House and California and all these places blow the fuck up, I actually enjoyed it. I know that's wrong. I don't really want anything bad to happen, but it was fun to watch.
And so, yes.
Especially the White House.
Shortly after that, and I think the helicopters were the ones that fired upon the ship, realized there was a shield around it, had their little flashy thing, and then the ship just opened up fire because it was the final countdown. And so then the aliens are like, okay, everybody on 3. And their buttholes of their ships open up and they just start blasting everything.
And I was just like, you're doing great, honey.
And it's creating like it's this white beam of light that takes out a focal point, but then it is like a firestorm surge that ripples through the city and just takes out everything.
So many people, yeah.
Vivica A. Fox is...
Godzilla only wishes.
Vivica A. Fox is trapped in the mess. She's in a tunnel.
Yeah, she's in her car and she jumps. She's like, okay, ship's really going down. And she picks up her son, whatever. The dog is with them. And she's smart to know that in this tunnel there's like access points. There's like a door. So she kicking that motherfucker down. I remember in the theater having this like, women are wonderful moment, feeling like,
you go. And
that was you go, girl. But she like knocked it down in time. And that dog, that miracle dog, she doesn't call the dog until she safely gets in. I'm surprised the dog didn't follow them too when they started walking. He kind of just stood wherever he was, and she calls for him, and he comes. But let's just put it out there: the CGI for this movie when it came out was great, but it doesn't stand the test of time.
And I wish they would have done that scene a little bit differently, where, like you said, the dog was with them the whole time, because the drama of like, will the dog make it? Really, what needed to happen was she needed to be able to close that door for a fire break so that the radiant heat didn't kill them.
Ooh, come in with them strong ass words, radiant heat. Okay. My Bessie's a bad bitch.
Now, all the cities are blowing up, and Air Force One is outrunning a fireball, which Ken calls bullshit on. And and he gave evidence of his bullshit calling, because he said the shockwave is so powerful it's throwing fire trucks through the air, but Air Force One is unaffected by it.
Yeah, all of that shit was weird. Because first and foremost, had all this as soon as, and I don't know much, but from all the TV I've consumed over the years, when it's dealt with the president,
which is quite a bit,
he wouldn't have been at the White House anymore. As soon as they were in the atmosphere, they would have been in some bunker, some doomsday bunker by now. So
I had that same thought.
None of that. I was like, I call bullshit too, Ken. This is bullshit.
Because Olympus is falling. As soon as, like, they realized the White House had been breached, they were underground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. They should have called me as a consultant. Even in like 17, 16, I'd have been all over this.
So now we're back to Will doing what he does best, kicking ass. He and Harry Connick Jr. don't know his name. His code name is Raven. I did pay attention to that. They're like bros. They're Top Gun, Tom Cruise, and Val Kilmer bros. And they're going to kick this alien ass together. And so they're weaving and dodging all of these alien ships, and they're taking them out and doing fancy maneuvers. And Harry Connick Jr. makes the mistake of banking too hard. And
wait, did you say banking?
Banking.
Are you using technical terms on me again?
That's what they said in the movie. Danielle. I'm about to explain what that means.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm listening.
Which I asked my experts, and what I was told
Your panel of experts.
My panel of experts. And what I was told was, if you bank too hard going at that velocity, you experience too many G's than your body can handle. And so Ken said he wouldn't have gotten disoriented and flipped off his mask. He would have actually blacked out. And so, but when I asked about that, I'm like, what happened to him? Like right after his plane crashes, I'm like, what happened to him? And Ken goes, he didn't eject. I was like, well, obviously he didn't eject, but physically, why did he act like that?
Yeah, I found out what his name is. It's Jimmy. Because I wrote, what was Jimmy doing?
Yeah.
Like, that scene didn't... To me, I didn't understand the science behind it. I just thought, motherfucker just gave up. Like, he just took his mask off and was just... He didn't even take out some bitches with him. No. Like, what's he doing?
Yeah, no.
But now, I'm thankful to understand.
There you go.
And I'm sure our listeners are very... they were confused too.
It was eating them up for 20 years as to why the fuck Jimmy just gives up. Now the mystery is solved. So
and then
they go through the Grand Canyon. It was very Death Star.
Thank you. I was like, oh, did I change to watch Star Wars? I was like, did I switch to Disney Plus? What's happening here? Oh, we just stealing shit now. Okay.
Truth.
Yeah.
So they go through the Grand Canyon. They end up at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. And Will does some evasive maneuvers and ends up getting the alien to crash.
And the dialogue in this whole scene gave me episode 1 vibes, pod racing vibes, Yahoo vibes. Like,
oh, he did say prior to the whole thing, when they were getting ready to get in their airplanes, he was ready to whoop E.T.'s ass. And they needed to kick the tires and light some fires. Which I asked Ken if that was a thing, like pre-flight inspection, and he said, no, I don't know what that means.
Oh, so okay. So we got to the crash, right? He ejects.
Mm-hmm. He ejects.
Yeah. He ejects, and he's out in the desert. And to me, I just want to know where the boldness came from. He ain't had no gun, no protection, but he's gonna straight up walk to this crashed alien craft.
You don't know what you're getting into, Will. You don't know what's in there.
You don't know how many that are in there. Like, what the balls, the audacity. It was ridiculous. He opens the space whatever, and I have to give it to them. That little alien cockroach thing that crawled out and did the like. I was disgusted and scared. I was like, oh Lord, get the raid. What is that? And this bitch, with one fucking fist, punches a bitch. And he dead now? He dead.
He's knocked out. He's knocked out. He's not dead.
And he not only does this, turns his back to it, sits and opens his pocket to pull out a cigar. Smoking.
It's his lucky charm.
What the? And then he says, well, when he punches, he's like, welcome to Earth. Really? And then he turns around and says, that's what I call a close encounter. Who's writing this shit? Yahoo.
I feel like this whole scene was probably ad-libbed. He just said what he felt at the time.
Just can't.
Oh, and when he's dragging the alien through the desert, the Bonneville Salt Flats.
Yeah. Is he still knocked out?
Yes. Because the alien doesn't rouse until we get him to Area 51, remember?
Yeah, that's true.
But he says, he's dragging the alien and he goes, and what the hell is that smell? And that's because the Bonneville Salt Flats obviously used to be the bottom of the ocean, and there's a lot of decomposed crustaceans that still, when the wind blows, you can smell the decomposition, and no one told Will. So that is a genuine reaction to the environment in which he's in, and has no reference to the alien.
OMG. Oh, okay. Well, so where are we next? Because the next thing I have is back to Jasmine, but I think there's some stuff in between.
Yeah, so then you're shown Area 51. So the president has arrived at Area 51. I would like to say there is a unnecessary but totally perfect line while they're sitting on Air Force One.
Yes.
And it is... the dad is talking to the president.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum's dad.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's saying, like, I think that David and his ex-wife, there's still a lot of love there. It was just, it didn't work out at the time, but I think they still love each other.
I thought, so in that scene, so they're all, again, they're arguing about what to do next on Area 51. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I can say a lot about our government, but I do not believe that we are this disorganized, that these kind of conversations of what to do next are being had on Air Force One in an argument about napalm and whether we should, whether we should use nuclear bombs to try to kill the aliens. Like, we're just playing this as we go, like, still just can't fathom this, and that there's not some sort of council of smarter people than you have advisors that are telling you, scientists, of what to do, or like, this is ridiculous. But the fact that the best idea or the next step came from the dad with like, okay, there's nothing we could have done about this, and he's like, I know that there was aliens that came to Area 51. And he's like, you guys have to have some shit. And the president's like, I don't know, we don't. And then his guy is like, the Secretary of Defense is like, well, actually, when these ships appeared in the sky, y'all didn't think we should probably go see what they're doing over there at Area 51 so we could figure it out. And the thing that would have made a lot of sense to me is if they had said, you know what, all these years we've had this, and this is how we got all of our technology was from the ship, but we haven't been able to kind of master how just the power source. Like, it would have just like the way they got there made.
So we get to Area 51. We are introduced to Dr. Oaken, played by Brent Spiner, in a masterful performance of a crazy scientist who has lived with alien bodies for 30 years.
Yeah, he real creepy. He got that vibe.
Oh, yes. So the president walks in and he said, so you're here to see the big tamale. And then they walk him into one of the fucking ships that have been terrorizing Earth now. And he goes, she's a beaut, ain't she? Like, he is totally invested in this alien shit. And so he said, as soon as the not the mothership, but like the big ships entered the Earth's atmosphere, this ship turned back on, which they've never been able to do because they didn't have a power source to power it. But now she's back online, and he says, the last 24 hours have been really exciting because they've been able to learn more about the technology of the ship, which they haven't been able to do prior. And then he says, you want to see the freak show, and they have 3 alien bodies floating in tubes. And he says that their bodies are just as fragile as ours are, but they have like these suits that they wear that are very technologically advanced. And so it's hard to get through the suit to be able to actually attack the actual alien.
Yeah. And their ships too. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to penetrate through. Well, so we see that, and as that is happening, Jasmine is on her own. So one thing we need to go back to Randy Quaid, Russ, and check on them. So him and his family and all of the caravan and RVs decide they're gonna get get the hell out of Dodge before that first attack happens. So they're on their way out, and they actually interact with Will Smith, with the alien, and give them a ride. And Will's like, actually, if you could take me to this base, which I feel like at his level, what was his ranking? Like, I feel like he wouldn't. I don't feel like he would know that this base would have existed. If the fucking president doesn't know, how does a captain in the Air Force know?
I mean,
question for the day.
You mean like Area 51?
Anywho, he knows. Yeah.
I think like he was logical about it and was like, aliens belong in Area 51. Plus, I mean, I keep calling it the Bonneville Salt Flats, which I don't think for the movie purposes, I don't think that's where he was. It was just where it was shot. It was just supposed to be like the desert. Which Area 51 is very close to the Grand Canyon and stuff. So logically, it would have been probably the closest military installation. Plus, just so happens that's where the aliens are. So it made sense.
So he gets the caravan to take him to this base, and of course at check-in security, they're like, "Bitch, nah, what you doing?" Which we know from the whole thing during the pandemic when everyone was like, let's storm Area 51. You're not getting too far. You're not getting to even security without getting shot down. So
there are levels of security.
Yeah. But, okay, for the sake of imagination, fine. They get through, and Will Smith is able to tell them that they have an alien in the back, so they get there. So slowly but surely, we're finding all our characters from all over the place. They're finally, like, coming together. Vivica's out in these streets by herself because her man left her to die. I'm going to say it, because it's true. He left her to die. But she is a strong black woman, and she figured that shit out, saving other people, getting trucks.
Yep, she finds, like, some sort of hauler truck. Like, it has a cab and then, like, almost like a dump truck back, but the sides aren't as high. I don't know. But she finds, like, this industrial truck that can kind of get through everything. And she's going through the streets. She's getting to the El Toro base is, like, her goal. But along the way, she's picking up people that are injured and things like that. And she finds the First Lady in the rubble, which Ken's like, so for all the people she found, how many people did she drive over because there was so much crap in the road?
And when they found the First Lady, which the dog found her first, he fucking stepped. His whole body went on top of the door that was, like, digging into her. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't think that's good. I don't think that's supposed to happen.
She is really, if there's a hero in this movie, Vivica A. Fox is, like, at the top of the list because she's out there saving civilians.
Yeah. And I thought, you know, when I saw that scene, it made me, like, really happy that they were, you know, giving the women some parts to play. Like, I would have been really excited if the chief of staff or whoever she was, that Jeff Goldblum's wife, and the fact that I have to identify her as that is sad. Like, if they had given her more of a role, if she was more of a strategic figure of, like, what needs to happen, because she started off that way in the beginning.
Connie is her name.
Yeah. But then they just, like, sideline her throughout the rest of the movie to just be kind of, like, really just the companion or the person that's propping up either Jeff Goldblum or the president. And I'm just like, this is weak. Yeah. Not after you give us, like, Ridley and, you know, all these other, Sarah Connor. Like, we've seen it before. This is not like the 70s. We're at a good point where we can identify that we can have some really strong
female leads.
Yeah. But you know what? The male leads weren't that strong either, so I can't complain. I can't.
So we're back at Area 51. They now have the alien that Will Smith knocked out on a table. They're cutting through the suit that they wear to expose the actual alien. But as they're doing this, he starts to rouse.
Why didn't they tie him down? Why didn't they dose him with drugs? Like, what is
He
this?
was restrained because they show it breaking through the restraints. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't know enough biologically as to, like, what was needed to
knock him out. They've had these aliens. They've had 3 for
But they
decades.
had them dead. They didn't have them alive to... I don't know. So they are in like a sterile room, like an operating room almost. And so it's completely surrounded by these glass windows. They figure out early on the aliens don't have vocal cords. And so they talk through telepathy.
Yeah.
And so the alien grabs Dr. Oaken and, like, puts his hands on his vocal cords, it seems. Or he's just choking
I turned
him.
away. It was creeping me out. I just listened.
Kind of uses Dr. Oaken to speak for the alien. He's like, you bitches better let me out. And they're like, we're not letting you out. They're trying to negotiate with him. He's like, there's no negotiation. Y'all gonna die. And so then they're like, is this glass bulletproof? Because a bitch got to go. And so they just start shooting the alien. Unfortunately, Dr. Oaken does not make it. The alien, like, kills him before they have a chance to get into the room. and the alien is shot and killed. But they kind of have an idea now, like there's no negotiation that's going to happen. Like they have one goal, and it is to just like take
Kill
over
us.
Earth. And he apparently with their telepathy, it seems like they can pick and choose who they talk to. So the alien like starts talking to the president through telepathy, and
Then he attacks him, no? Like, doesn't he start making that high-pitched sound?
Yeah.
That's why the president's on the floor?
yes. And so, but I think at that same time that represents that like he's talking to him or like projecting
Yeah.
things into his head. And so apparently I don't know if it's a side effect of like the telepathy or he purposely showed the president what's going to happen to Earth. But essentially the president's like, this is what they do. They go to planets, they take over, they use all the resources, and then they move on. They're like locusts.
Yeah.
Is what he compares it to. So now they all know, well, fuck, we need a plan because these things are gonna, right? These things are gonna kill us. They're not here for good. I'm like, they have already shot down multiple planes. They have taken out multiple cities. What do you think was gonna happen? You were just like, oh, we're gonna have a conversation with them, and then it's gonna be all good. We're just gonna tell them, hey, bro, back off, and they're like, oh, we'll move on. It's fine. Like what?
And
What did they think was gonna happen?
And then shortly after this scene, the Vivica Fox, the first lady, I mean Jasmine, the first lady, and their caravan are rescued, and they're brought in. The doctors are trying to like help the first lady, and then they give the news to the president that the first lady has had too much internal damage. She's internally bleeding, and there's no way to save her. So now
She would have been dead long before that. If you have internal bleeding,
there's
you
no
don't
way.
have time to caravan to Area 51.
No, and especially when the dog came and squashed your organs, so weren't gonna make it. But anywho, so he comes to say goodbye or talk to her, whatever, and she's like, I should have came when you said, you think, bitch? You think?
She annoyed me.
What the hell? Yeah, and then the little Mae Whitman comes. Mae Whitman is the name of the actress that plays the daughter. We very much love her on this show for many reasons.
Yes, well, I love
her
her on Parenthood.
Yes, and Good
Yes.
Girls.
She's amazing.
And yeah, and if you're a real OG, there used to be a show called, I think, Saving Grace on ABC Family. And she was on that as well. And also Arrested Development. This is just a Mae Whitman stan show as well. So she comes in, she says goodbye. They take her off. He asks his daughter to go out and wait outside so mommy can take some rest, but they say their goodbyes, and then I guess it alludes that like once he comes back out, she did. So she did. Moving on. Jeff Goldblum is having a full-on
Meltdown.
drunken stupor. Yep. And so he's having a talk with his dad, and through the conversation, he gets the idea of giving the ship a computer virus to pretty much break down its defenses. And so it works. He saves the day, as I alluded to in my notes earlier. Jeff Goldblum will save us all. So
they start suiting up, and there are different phases. So he and Will Smith have to fly to the mothership to implant because it works where the mothership actually controls all the other ships. Yeah. And so if you take out the mothership's defenses with the computer virus, then it'll trickle down to all the other ships. So their job is to infiltrate the mothership and upload the virus, and then once the virus is uploaded, they can go to the second phase of ships and start nuking them and to take out all of the other ships.
Well, it's too bad they didn't have Napster or LimeWire at that point, because that would have been an easy fix. this is where Will Smith decides that he's going to get married to Jasmine before they go on their trip. Mm-hmm. And he almost dies. So he pops out that dolphin ring.
And I was wondering... I was like, is he doing this so that she gets military benefits if he doesn't come back? And Ken said, what military is he coming back to?
No.
I was like,
I mean,
okay.
I'll second that and say, bitch didn't care about getting her safely on the base. So now he cares about her getting benefits? Get the fuck out of here. He realized that his aspirations to work at NASA was no longer, so he could marry the stripper that he's been stringing along for a few decades. Who knows? Yeah, so they have the wedding, and all of a sudden, him and Jeff Goldblum and his ex-wife, they're all like friends now, and they're the witnesses for this wedding, and I don't know, not invested.
And then they also they realize they don't have enough pilots, and so they're like, pretty much anyone. Has anyone flown anything before? Like, we'll take anyone. And Russ is like, me
I've been
here.
dusting them crops wrong, but I got it.
Yeah. And I have a beef with the aliens. So let's do this.
Let's get it on. I can imagine.
So, and then this is when the speech happens.
Now, so this is... What year is this again that this came out? I'm just trying to figure out how
96.
old I was.
So we were 13.
Okay. I'm giving myself a break then, because I was like, man, Y2K Danielle was eating this shit up. Like, give me some more, sir. I loved it. I was like, I wish our president would say the speech.
So it's a very long speech, but in the end, the very last few lines are, and should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
And that is what we call propaganda, people. Did you feel American pride when our president, Bill Pullman, gave this speech? Did you feel it deep down in your soul? Did you go and say, I'm going to go fucking sign up for the military right now? These aliens don't have a chance. Ridiculous.
Anywho. So everyone takes off. Oh, and Will Smith's like, hold on, we can't do this shit. I need some cigars. But luckily, the dad coming in clutch. It's like, oh, I smoke cigars. Here's two. Have fun. So Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum go up to plant the virus. Everyone else is like on standby. They go in and then they're like, they're going to see us. And so Jeff Goldblum goes, put the shields up. I have a question. If they speak telepathically with everyone,
right? Wouldn't they
just like brain search and be like, "Oh,
this ain't us.
Y'all are not one of us."
And also, so I'm glad you brought that up. Also, that ship that they're in, you have to imagine they probably upgraded their technology tenfold by then. Like if they're anything like us,
since the 50s,
right?
Yeah,
and they'll be like, somebody's like on their little monitor and be like, "Huh. Ship 626, that shit ain't been seen since 1950. What's going on?" Red flag. Red flag on the play.
Good Lilo and Stitch reference.
Thank you. Also, I put in my notes, after that speech, as if China wouldn't have figured this shit out by now. Or Russia. Like, I just cannot stand that we were not working in tandem with other people for this thing, you know?
For the greater good of the entire earth.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let me see if there's anything I missed. Oh, when Dave starts up his computer, it says, "Good morning, Dave," in the HAL voice. So it was a throwback to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Randy Quaid is still sobering up, apparently, because he almost launches the fucking nuke as soon as he gets in his little aircraft. I'm like, that dumbass.
I mean, it's the end of the world, so...
Plan works, except for... I don't even remember. I kind of... To be honest, this was a really long movie.
It was.
And
so
towards the end, I started fading.
Tapped out. Yeah,
and I don't remember exactly why Randy Quaid had to fly up the alien's butthole.
Let me just... Okay. So, pretty much bitches were dead. Either everybody... They were dead, or they didn't have any more. And this is where... Like, I'm not technically savvy about this stuff, but one of the bombs that they had on the planes were not... They didn't have any more. Nobody had any more. The president tried to do his last shot. Yeah, he was the last one to have it, but then his got stuck.
Oh, it got stuck.
Yeah, so he said, you know what? I'm gonna just give it to them. But what I don't get is... When he started flying up into the butthole, why they didn't just shoot him? Because if they had shot him, then his thing would have blown up, but I don't think it would have actually hurt them. Right. It was just weird. Like, so he flew all the way up, and then he crashed. Like, I don't know if detonated and then blew him up.
Although I thought it was very it was poetic justice. Because if they did sexually abuse him, they probably probed his butt and then he probed theirs.
I wonder where that whole... I'm sure someone has explained this, but I wonder where that thought came from, why... Or where that stereotype came from that aliens would... Like, out of all the things that they would want to do to us, going up our ass was just universal. Super weird.
I don't know.
I have a feeling it's probably going to be something homophobic that stemmed from it, because, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Super
we have
weird.
lots of orifices. I don't know why they chose the butthole.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real stupid. Anywho, so, yeah, Randy Quaid takes one for the team, America. And he saves the day. And I just think it's so insensitive. Everyone's, like, clapping and everything. And that poor kid, Keanu Reeves,
wannabe
a bastard child, is, like, sad about his dad. And that guy turns to him and is just like, your dad did it for the country. Or whatever he says.
You should be
not
proud
really
of,
reassuring.
Yeah, you should be proud of him. And he's like, I am.
Don't tell me how to feel. My dad just died.
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me I should be proud of him. Bitch, get out of my face. So, yeah, everyone's celebrating.
Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum land. And then the swagger on these two.
Jeff Goldblum was looking fly. I loved his slow motion walk.
Both in their air flight suits, smoking cigars.
Cigars. And they did have swag.
Right?
Swag for days. And I know you're not feeling Jeff Goldblum the way I am, but you have to give him credit that he owned that scene just as much as Will Smith.
He did. That scene, although, like, it wasn't necessary, I really enjoyed that scene.
I enjoyed them walking. Yeah.
Of them being like, yeah, the two of us together. I'm like, Randy Quaid, bitch, went up the alien's butthole. You didn't go up the alien's butthole. Because you're here alive to tell the tale.
Well, whatever. But I just hate the women running to the... Oh, it's like, this is stupid.
And now we're back together. Jeff Goldblum and weird. Connie.
And when the butthole is blown up, I do love that they show the most stereotypical parts of the world celebrating. Why do they do this when they show... Like, Africa is a huge-ass continent with many countries, with many people, many cultures, but, like, advanced cultures. Like, this whole idea that they're just people, tribes, living in villages, and, like, when they had all these different civilizations applauding, they have these tribal-looking people coming out with... you know, their with sticks, and it just, I was like, what is this? I mean, maybe they thought if they put a group of black people, they thought maybe they wouldn't know that it was there was just better ways to do it. I just,
Yeah.
Those are the things that stick out to me, because I'm like, this is so stupid. This is why people are so uneducated and perpetuate so many stupid ass stereotypes.
Yeah.
One of the largest
that, like,
continents.
Africa is a primitive continent without...
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was just my soapbox rant. We'll get it every episode, whatever. But it's really dumb to me. Yeah, so yeah, they're back together. Happy ending.
City's destroyed, but
yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be trying to clean up that mess. It's pretty bad. And that's it.
And then the two kids, Mae Whitman says, "Happy 4th of July, Daddy."
Yeah.
Which I'm like, bitch, your mom just died.
Right. No, those kids.
And then Will Smith said, "Didn't I tell you you'd see some fireworks?"
What?
And the kid's like, "Yeah."
I'm traumatized for life. What the fuck just happened to me in the last 3 days?
Yeah.
For life. And nobody was watching them kids. Like, there were scenes where you see the adults and you just see them, hey.
And they were exposed to way more than they should have been
Yeah.
in, like, those discussions. And, like, Mae Whitman's with them when they're, like, walking in to see the alien spaceship.
Yeah.
Someone take that child and go play or color with her while the grown-ups do their work. She doesn't need to be exposed to all of that. Therapy. She's going to need a lot of fucking therapy.
100%. I think the movie would have benefited if they had an older teenage daughter and then Mae Whitman. And then she could have, you know, like said, hey, let's go over here. Or an aide or something. I don't know. But we think too hard about this shit, so I guess.
Nanny.
Yes.
Mrs. Doubtfire needed to be there to shield Mae Whitman from all of the insanity that was happening. So let's see. Facts that we didn't talk about. The president's speech was filmed on August 6, 1995 in front of an old airplane hangar that once housed the Enola Gray, which dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima exactly 50 years earlier on August 6, 1945. I have seen the Enola Gray. It is at the Smithsonian Annex in Washington, D.C.
Oh, nice. One thing that we missed was just the casting of Will Smith. Because if you know, as we think about him now, he is the quintessential movie star. But back then, at that point, he really had only been in what? He was on The Fresh Prince. And
6 Degrees of Separation.
Yeah, he had done the 6 Degrees of Separation movie. And so the
co-writers.
The co-writers, they really envisioned that Stephen Hiller's role would have been played by an African American. And after seeing 6 Degrees of Separation, they said, "Okay, we definitely want Will Smith." And it was a fight. It was met with some resistance and even some racism from the studio executives, but they stood their ground, and it launched Will Smith's movie career. So made him a bankable superstar.
Devlin and Roland Emmerich for standing your ground and giving the world Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm glad that happened.
This was also the highest grossing movie of 1996.
Yeah, and I think it stayed there for quite a while.
And prior to that, the highest grossing movie of all time was Jurassic Park. And then this was number 2. So Jeff Goldblum was in the first and second highest ranking movies of all time in the mid-90s.
So, all right, we did ID4 Independence Day. Jackie, what is your present day rating of this film?
I'm pretty sure Ken was ready for a divorce when I divulged this information last night. I'm going to give it a 7-day rental. I can't. It was hard to watch. It drug on. It had unnecessary scenes. I was not into this movie at all. I couldn't. And I have no desire to see it ever again. I haven't seen it since like the mid-90s. And I'm good.
Well, I'll be there to help you sign the divorce papers because I'm right there with you with the same day rental trash.
Okay.
I love Jeff Goldblum. I love Will Smith. But even those two megastars could not save this sinking ship for me. Oh, man. And I love this movie. I don't think I've had such a crazy disparity between rankings before, between the ratings. Yeah. But yeah, oh man, I will not be watching it again. I was excited. I thought, because I remember liking it a lot, but life has changed. Changed. Oh,
We've
man.
grown as people, and we have grown away from Independence Day. And I hope the next Will Smith movie we do is one we actually enjoy.
Yeah,
because
100%.
I do really, really love Will Smith. Well, Danielle, tell the people where they can find us.
Well, you can find us on the TikTok. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at No More Late Fees. And obviously you found the podcast, but if you're looking up for other places to listen to us, we are on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, we're on Audible. So many places. And if you're still looking, our links are in all of our social media bios and you can find us. If you are interested in giving some feedback about this episode or other episodes or any episodes you'd like us to do in the future, you can give us a call. We're going to have a new segment called Quick Drop where we'll be listening to some of your messages and sharing them with everybody. So Jackie, give the people the number.
The number is 909-601-NMLF, 909-601-6653.
Well, thank you again for joining us. We hope you have a great week.
And until next time, be kind and rewind.